It doesn't start with an insult. It starts with silence. They talk over you, like you weren't even there. You raise a point. They move on. You offer an idea. They nod politely, then ignore it. No confrontation, no aggression, just dismissal. And that's what makes it dangerous, because it doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like invisibility, like you're standing in the room, but somehow not in the room. You're not being challenged. You're being bypassed. They assume you're harmless, unimportant, not worth pushing back against. And the truth is, that cuts deeper than any insult, because disrespect you can fight. But being overlooked, that eats at you quietly. So you do what most people do. You start trying to prove yourself. You speak louder. You explain more. You overdeliver. You chase recognition. You think, if they just see what I can do, they'll respect me. But that's the trap. Because the moment you try to prove your value, you've already accepted that they get to judge it. And that's why most people stay small. Not because they lack ability, but because they spend their energy trying to be seen by people who already decided they don't matter. Here's the part no one tells you. Being underestimated is not kindness. It's not neutrality. It's not innocent. It's a declaration. You don't matter enough for me to take seriously. And once someone places you there, every move you make after is watched through that lens. You can shout. You can perform. You can beg for attention, but in their mind, you're still the one they looked past, unless you change the game entirely. Because there is another response, not louder, not more impressive, not desperate, a colder one. A response that doesn't try to correct their perception, but uses it. No proving, no begging, no explaining. Just one move that quietly positions you where they can no longer ignore you. A move that makes them look back one day and think, how did I miss that? Because when someone underestimates you, that's not the end, that's the opening. When they underestimate you, that's when the game actually begins. If this feels uncomfortably familiar, pause for a second and like this video and subscribe. Because once you understand how underestimation really works, you stop giving power away without realizing it. Understand this first. When someone underestimates you, it's not an accident. It's not just ignorance. It's not just they don't know you yet. It's positioning. They are placing you below them. In their mental hierarchy, they've already decided you're not a threat, you're not competition, you're not someone who can shift the room. And the moment that happens, the power dynamic is set. That's why underestimation feels so heavy. It's not about your skill, it's about your rank. And the instinct it triggers in most people is predictable. They rush to correct it. They explain themselves. They list credentials. They show receipts. They overdeliver. They perform. They think, if I just show them what I can do, they'll change their mind. But the Machiavellian sees the trap, because the moment you try to prove yourself, you accept their authority to judge you. You silently agree. You sit above me. You decide my worth. That's not respect. That's submission. Machiavelli understood something brutal. You don't fight perception. You use it. He never rushed to correct how he was seen. He let people believe whatever made them careless, weak, naive, unimportant, unaware. Why? Because perception shapes preparation. People only prepare for what they fear. They only defend against what they respect. They only watch closely what they believe could hurt them. And the moment someone thinks you're harmless, they stop watching. They speak freely. They expose plans. They drop their guard. They reveal ambition, jealousy, intention. Underestimation doesn't make them stronger. It makes them sloppy. That's why being underestimated is not a weakness. It's a strategic opening. It gives you access. It buys you time. It removes resistance before it ever forms. While they think you're irrelevant, you see everything. While they talk down to you, you learn how they think. While they ignore you, you move without interference. Machiavelli didn't want enemies who feared him early. He wanted enemies who slept. Because sleeping opponents don't block your path. They clear it. So here's the doctrine you must install in your mind. Don't rush to be seen. Don't beg to be respected. Don't fight the role they gave you. Use it. Because the moment they think you're harmless, you're finally free to move. This is the law you must burn into your mind. The one who tries to raise their status lowers it. The one who lets others misjudge controls the frame. It sounds backward, but that's because most people don't understand how power actually works. When someone underestimates you, your ego wants to fix it. Your pride wants to interrupt the mistake. Your instinct says, let me show them. Let me prove who I really am. Let me correct this. But the Machiavellian sees what's really happening. The moment you try to prove yourself, you are no longer acting from power. You are asking for validation, and asking is kneeling. Think about it. When you explain your value, you imply they have the right to judge it. When you list your strengths, you imply they have the authority to rank them. When you rush to impress, you imply their approval is something you need. That is not dominance. That is submission, dressed up as confidence. Machiavelli understood this brutal truth. Power is not claimed. It is assumed. High-status people do not argue their worth. They don't advertise their danger. They don't correct every wrong perception. They move as if their position is already settled, and everyone else adjusts around that assumption. That's why the fastest way to look small is to try to look big. The moment you try to raise yourself in their eyes, you put yourself beneath them, because now you are performing, and performers exist for the audience. But when you let someone misjudge you, and you don't react, and you don't correct, and you don't rush to be seen, something strange happens. They start watching you more closely. Why isn't he defending himself? Why isn't she trying to impress? What does he know that I don't? What is she planning? Your silence creates tension. Your restraint creates curiosity. Your calm creates doubt. And doubt is power. Because now the frame has flipped. You are no longer trying to rise in their mind. They are trying to figure you out in theirs. Machiavelli let people believe he was weaker than he was, right up until the moment they realized too late that they had been standing in his shadow the whole time. So install this law in your mind. Don't interrupt their mistake. Don't rush to fix their blindness. Don't save them from misjudging you, because their misjudgment is your leverage. Say it until it becomes instinct. Never correct underestimation. Use it. If this is clicking for you, comment this below. I never correct underestimation. Not for motivation, so your mind starts treating it as law. Now let me reveal the move. Not a comeback, not a confrontation, not a flex, a trap. A Machiavellian trap built from silence, precision, and delayed revelation. When they underestimate you, most people rush to correct it. They interrupt. They explain. They try to be seen. That's exactly why they lose. The move you use instead has 4 phases, and when you execute them cleanly, The power shift becomes irreversible. Phase 1. Acceptance. You let them believe it. You don't bristle. You don't correct. You don't tighten your jaw or change your tone. They think you're small, harmless, slow, irrelevant. You allow it, not because it's true, but because it's useful. Acceptance is camouflage. The moment they think they've placed you below them, they stop watching you. They relax. They talk freely. They reveal plans. They expose blind spots. They believe you are not a factor. And that belief is your opening. Phase 2. Still competence. Now you move. Quietly. Flawlessly. Without drawing attention, you do the work. You solve problems. You build leverage. You learn systems. You sharpen timing. But you do it without theater. No speeches. No self-praise. No dramatic effort. You let your competence look ordinary, because competence without noise feels safe to powerful egos. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't provoke. They think he's useful. She's dependable, but not dangerous. That's exactly where you want them. Phase 3. No signaling. This is where most people fail. They start hinting, dropping clues, fishing for recognition. They can't resist saying, I actually know how to do this. I've handled bigger things before. You might be surprised what I can do. And in that moment, they destroy the trap. Because signaling wakes people up. So you don't. You don't brag. You don't explain. You don't warn. You let them continue believing you are exactly as limited as they think. You let them underestimate the ceiling because they've already accepted the floor. Silence keeps the trap invisible. Phase 4. Sudden exposure. This is the strike, not with words, with results. You don't announce it. You don't threaten it. You don't frame it as revenge. You simply let the outcome appear when it's too late to stop. The project succeeds without them. The decision goes your way. The opportunity becomes yours. The power shifts quietly, but permanently. And that's when the realization hits them. They were never above you. They were standing next to a storm they couldn't see. Now it's irreversible. Because once people see results, they can't unsee them. No argument can erase it. No excuse can reframe it. No disrespect can survive it. You didn't fight their low expectations. You didn't correct them. You didn't expose yourself early. You fulfilled them until it was too late. That's the invisibility trap, not confrontation, not flexing, not calling them out. Just silence, precision, and delayed revelation. And when it's done right, you don't have to say a word. The room recalibrates itself around you. Because the most dangerous person in any room is the one everyone thought they had already figured out. The invisibility trap doesn't win because it's clever. It wins because it hacks the human ego. To understand why this move is so devastating, you have to understand one truth about people in power. They don't defend against what they don't fear. And underestimation is the signal that says, you're not a threat. The invisibility trap wins because, first, it breaks ego expectations. Every ego carries a script. When someone looks at you and decides you're small, harmless, or beneath them, they expect you to play a role. The quiet one, the helper, the background piece, the one who stays in their lane. They don't expect resistance. They don't expect competition. They definitely don't expect domination. So when you accept that role without protest, their ego relaxes. They think, I've placed them. I understand them. I've measured them. That illusion of control is intoxicating. And once they feel in control, they stop being careful. Second, It makes them careless. The moment someone believes you're not a threat, they change how they act around you. They speak more freely. They show impatience. They reveal intentions. They take shortcuts. They stop filtering. Why would they? You're not dangerous. So they think. This is where invisibility becomes camouflage. You're standing right next to their power structure, and they treat you like furniture. Meanwhile, you're watching, learning, mapping weaknesses, collecting leverage. Carelessness is the tax arrogance pays. Third, it lowers their defenses. People don't keep armor on around those they believe are inferior. They don't guard their tone. They don't guard their plans. They don't guard their blind spots. They assume dominance is permanent, so they stop defending. And that's when the trap tightens, because the moment their defenses drop, your precision becomes fatal. You don't need to overpower them. You just need to move when they're exposed. Fourth, it invites disrespect, and that blinds them. Underestimation doesn't stay neutral. It evolves into disrespect. They interrupt you. They dismiss your input. They overlook your presence. They talk around you like you're not even there. And ironically, that disrespect makes them even more blind. Because once someone disrespects you, they psychologically downgrade you. They stop tracking you as an agent. They stop considering your impact. They stop imagining you could change anything. Disrespect isn't just emotional. It's perceptual blindness. They literally stop seeing you as part of the game. That's when you're most dangerous. Fifth, it creates contrast shock when truth appears. Then the results land, and that's when the damage is done. Because psychologically, the shock isn't just that you succeeded, it's that you weren't supposed to. Their mind has to process two impossible truths at once. I judged them as small, and yet they just outplayed me. That contradiction hits like a detonation. It doesn't just bruise their ego, it shatters their self-image. They don't just feel surprised, they feel exposed, because now they realize, if they misjudged you this badly, how many other things have they misjudged? That doubt spreads about themselves, about their instincts, about their authority. That's when status inverts. You didn't climb, they fell. This is status inversion. Before, they were the evaluator. You were the evaluated.
Now, they're the one being silently measured, and you're the new reference point.
Not because you claimed it, but because reality forced it, and the mind always bows to outcomes. That's the power of ambiguity. You never showed your hand, you never revealed your ceiling, so when the truth appears, it feels supernatural, like you came from nowhere, but you didn't. You were there the whole time, invisible, unfeared, untouched, until it was over. So remember this line: people don't defend against what they don't fear. And the moment someone stops fearing you is the moment they become vulnerable to everything you can do. That's why the invisibility trap doesn't just beat them. It dismantles them from the inside out. Now let's bring this out of theory and into real life. Because this move only becomes powerful when you see how it plays out in situations you recognize. In every case, you'll notice the same pattern. The normal reaction is to overprove and stay ignored. The Machiavellian move is to build quietly and become unavoidable. At work, the ignored junior. You're in meetings, you share ideas, they get brushed past, senior voices dominate, your input disappears into the noise. The normal move? You talk more. You explain harder. You send follow-ups. You over-deliver visibly. You think, if I just show them how capable I am, they'll notice. But what happens? You become background effort, useful, invisible, still not taken seriously. Now watch the Machiavellian. They stop pitching, stop trying to be heard. They accept the junior label, but quietly, they build. They take ownership of a project no one's watching. They fix a broken system no one cares about. They prepare something so clean, so valuable, that when it surfaces, it can't be ignored. And when it's finally presented, there's no speech, no bragging, just results. Suddenly the room shifts. The same people who dismissed them now ask, "When did you do this? How long have you been capable of that?" They didn't climb status, they inverted it. In groups, the overlooked member, you're in social circles, group chats, hangouts. You're there, but not central. Plans happen around you. Conversations move without you. The normal reaction? Try to be louder, funnier, more impressive, more agreeable. You chase attention, and the more you chase it, the cheaper it becomes. Now the Machiavellian, they don't force presence. They don't compete for spotlight. They stay warm, calm, unassuming, but quietly. They become useful. They connect people. They solve problems. They become the one others rely on. And over time, something changes. When plans are made, people look to them. When decisions happen, their opinion is asked. When tension rises, they become the stabilizer. Without ever demanding attention, they become the center gravity. Invisible to unavoidable. In relationships, taken for granted. You care, you give, you're always available, and slowly, you become expected. Your effort stops being valued. Your presence becomes background noise. Your absence feels unimaginable until it happens. The normal reaction? Complain, explain, ask for appreciation, overgive even more. Which teaches the other person one thing: you're not going anywhere. Now the Machiavellian move: no fights, no speeches, no ultimatums, just withdrawal, not coldness, not punishment, but quiet, emotional distance. You stop over-investing, stop filling gaps, stop being endlessly available. You become less predictable, less accessible. And suddenly, they feel it. The energy shifts, the silence grows. They start asking questions. What's wrong? You feel different. Are we okay? You never accused them, but your absence exposed the value they ignored. That's when respect returns, or the truth reveals itself. Either way, power shifts. In competition, the dismissed opponent. You enter a space where others think they're better, more experienced, more connected, more impressive. They don't see you as competition. The normal reaction? You flex early, you signal ambition, you try to look dangerous, which makes them take you seriously. Before you're ready, they counter, they block, they prepare. Now the Machiavellian, you stay quiet. You let them underestimate. You let them think they've already won. Meanwhile, you train, you refine, you prepare in silence. Then the moment comes, and you don't just beat them, you dominate. Because they never prepared for you. They thought you weren't in the race, and by the time they realize, it's already over. Online. The underestimated voice. You post, you share ideas, you speak into the noise. No traction, no validation, no response. The normal reaction? Try to sound smarter, louder, more extreme, chase trends, which makes you look like everyone else. Now the Machiavellian, you keep posting, but differently. Clear, precise, consistent, no begging for attention, no reacting to critics, no chasing numbers, just signal. And over time, Something happens. One post hits, then another. Then suddenly, people start quoting you. Your words spread. Your ideas get referenced. Your name becomes associated with a tone, not viral noise, authority. And the same people who ignored you before now say, "Who is this? Where did they come from?" They didn't see the build-up. They only saw the arrival. That's the invisibility trap. In every scenario, the law is the same. The normal reaction is to overprove and stay small. The Machiavellian move is to build quietly and become undeniable. You don't shout to be seen. You let results force eyes open. You don't demand space. You make yourself impossible to ignore. That's how you move from invisible to unavoidable. If you want to master the invisibility trap, you don't just need the idea. You need rules. Because power isn't built on inspiration. It's built on discipline. So here is the doctrine. The commandments you live by when you are underestimated. Burn these into your mind. Rule 1. Never correct their assumptions when underestimated. When they misjudge you, when they think you're weaker, slower, less capable, do not rush to fix it. Don't say, "Actually, I can do more than that." Don't hint at hidden strengths. Don't defend your image. Because the moment you correct them, you reveal fear. Fear that their opinion matters. Fear that being seen as small is dangerous. The Machiavellian knows the opposite is true. Their wrong assumption is your shield. Let them keep it. Rule 2. Never reveal your full capacity early when underestimated. You may know what you can do. They don't. And that gap is power. Never show your ceiling at the beginning. Never play at 100% when 40% will do. Never let them map your limits. Why? Because once people know your range, they build defenses around it. So you stay contained, measured, quietly competent. You let them believe they've seen all of you, when in reality, they've only seen the surface. Rule 3. Never seek recognition before results when underestimated. Recognition before results is begging. It sounds like, "Notice me. Trust me. Believe in me." Power doesn't ask to be believed. It arrives with proof. So you don't chase praise. You don't fish for validation. You don't ask to be seen. You let outcomes speak. Because when results appear first, recognition follows without resistance. Rule 4. Never warn before you move when underestimated. Never announce. Never threaten. Never hint. The moment you say, "They'll see soon," or "Just wait," you destroy the trap. You trigger preparation. The Machiavellian move is to be invisible until the moment you're unavoidable. No countdown, no build-up, no drama, just impact. By the time they realize you were moving, you're already there. Rule 5. Never celebrate too soon when underestimated. Even when things start working, even when you feel momentum, you stay quiet. Because early celebration leaks power. It reveals confidence before dominance is secured. It invites envy. It draws eyes too soon. So you stay controlled. You don't broadcast progress. You don't flex small wins. You let victory mature in silence. Then, when it's final, you let it speak for itself. Rule 6. Never explain what you can demonstrate when underestimated. Words invite debate. Results end it. If you explain what you're capable of, they can doubt it. If you demonstrate it, they can't. So you don't argue your vision. You build it. You don't defend your competence. You show it. Because explanation is a request. Demonstration is a verdict. Rule 7. Never rush the reveal when underestimated. The temptation is always there. You want to be seen. You want credit. You want them to finally realize. But rushing the reveal weakens the effect. The longer they underestimate you, the deeper the contrast will cut. Let their confidence grow. Let their dismissal harden. Let their story about you settle. Because the stronger their illusion, the more violent the break when reality hits. So you wait. You move patiently. You build silently. You reveal only when it's irreversible. These are the laws. Patience over pride. Silence over signaling. Delay over display. Because when you are underestimated, time is not your enemy. Time is your weapon. And if you obey these rules, you won't need to correct anyone. Reality will do it for you. This is where the real change happens, not in what you do, but in who you become. At first, when you're underestimated, you live in one identity. You try to be seen. You try to be respected. You try to be chosen. You raise your hand. You speak louder. You do more than asked. You think if they just notice you, everything will change. But that mindset keeps you small, because chasing attention makes you dependent on it. And anything you chase controls you. The Machiavellian shift begins when you stop trying to be visible and start becoming inevitable. You no longer ask, "Will they pick me?" You move as if the outcome will pick you. You stop trying to be respected and start moving in ways that make disrespect risky. You stop trying to be chosen and start building value so sharp that ignoring you becomes expensive. This is the identity flip from overlooked to untouchable. Not because you're loud, but because you're quietly feared. Not because you demand attention, but because your absence creates pressure. People begin to feel it. When you don't show up, things stall. When you don't speak, decisions wobble. When you're not involved, outcomes weaken. And slowly, a new reputation forms. Not one you announce, one they build about you. You become mysterious. They don't fully know what you're doing, how far you've gone, or what you're capable of, and what people can't map. They fear. Efficient. You don't talk much. You don't waste motion. When you move, things change. That makes your presence feel expensive. Dangerous in silence. Not aggressive. Not dramatic. Just controlled. The kind of person who doesn't need noise to shift rooms. People stop testing you, not because you told them not to, but because experience taught them that ignoring you has consequences. This is when something strange happens. You no longer feel the urge to prove yourself. You don't rush to speak. You don't jump to perform. You don't scramble to be included. You've crossed into a new posture. You expect outcomes. You assume impact. You move like your value is already settled. And when you do that long enough, others start treating it as settled too. That's when you understand the line. You stop asking to be noticed. You let absence build hunger. Your silence becomes weight. Your distance becomes pressure. Your restraint becomes reputation. You are no longer trying to climb into relevance. You are the reference point. And once that identity locks in, being underestimated is no longer painful. It becomes amusing. Because you know what's coming, and they don't. By now you're no longer just using the move, you're becoming it. Because the highest level of this game isn't what you do when they underestimate you. It's what your presence starts doing before anyone tries. You don't announce it. You don't posture. You don't perform. You simply walk in, and the room recalibrates. Not because you're loud, but because you're calm. Your posture is relaxed, not slouched, not stiff, just settled. You take up space without trying to dominate it. That tells people something immediately. This person is not here to compete for attention. They already have their footing. Your words become minimal. You don't narrate your thoughts. You don't fill silence. You don't talk just to be heard. When you speak, it's short, precise, final. And because you don't talk much, every word lands heavier. No emotional spikes. You don't light up when praised. You don't tighten when challenged. You don't shift when ignored. Your emotional line stays flat, not cold, controlled. That emotional neutrality is unsettling, because most people leak what they want. They reveal where to press. They show what moves them. You don't, so no one knows where to aim. Your timing becomes deliberate. You don't rush replies. You don't jump into conversations. You don't react in real time. You let moments breathe. You answer when it matters, not when it's expected. That alone makes people wait on you. And whoever makes others wait is already ahead. Your eyes do the real work, not staring, not challenging, observing. You look at people like you're collecting data, like nothing they do goes unnoticed. That kind of gaze does something strange. It makes people self-edit. They adjust their words. They soften their tone. They become aware of themselves. Because being watched by someone who doesn't react feels like being evaluated by something you can't read. And this is where the paradox forms. To most people, you look unremarkable, not flashy, not loud, not dramatic, but to the room, you feel unignorable. They can't explain it. They just know this person doesn't move like everyone else. You don't rush, you don't prove, you don't chase, you wait. And waiting, when done from strength, feels like a threat. Not because you're aggressive, but because you seem prepared for something no one else sees. And that's when the aura locks in. People stop interrupting you. They check your reaction before committing. They hesitate before crossing you. Not out of fear, out of instinct. Because something about you signals this person is not to be taken lightly. Not because they've shown power, but because they haven't needed to. So remember the line. They don't know what you're doing. They just know not to get in your way. That's when you've reached it. You're no longer invisible. You're just quietly unavoidable. Your presence alone bends behavior. And that's when the move becomes permanent, not a tactic, a state. At the highest level, you stop correcting people. You stop reacting to their assumptions. You stop needing them to see you. You let them believe whatever they want, because your position no longer depends on perception. It depends on outcomes. When you move like this long enough, something changes. People stop underestimating you. Not because you convinced them, but because reality did. They remember the time they ignored you, and you delivered anyway. They remember when they thought you were harmless, and suddenly you were everywhere. They remember when they didn't take you seriously, and then had to adjust their plans around you. You didn't argue. You didn't call them out. You didn't demand respect. You let results rewrite the story. That's when you understand the final truth. You don't rise by being seen. You rise by becoming unavoidable. You don't win by correcting perceptions. You win by making them irrelevant. You don't win the argument. You win the outcome. And once they finally see what you really are, once the contrast hits, once your quiet build becomes impossible to ignore, they never underestimate again. Not because they learned, but because they remember. They remember what happened last time they did. That's the end of the game, Not domination, not revenge, not applause, inevitability. You become the person they adjust for, the presence they calculate around, the variable they no longer treat as small. And from that point on, you don't prove them wrong. You end them trying. If you're done proving yourself, like this video, if you know someone being ignored, dismissed, underestimated, share this with them. And if you're ready to stop proving and start becoming unavoidable, subscribe. Because in this world, the quiet ones don't stay invisible. They just wait until it's too late.